Good morning, children. Welcome to the third lesson, sound. This topic is again very familiar to you. Let's see what is sound. In class 5 science, you have studied different forms of energy. There you have studied light is a form of energy, heat is a form of energy, then sound is a form of energy. So basically, sound is a form of energy. How does it help us in our daily life? It helps us to hear. So sound is a form of energy which helps us to hear or which gives us the sensation of hearing. Now, how does it travel? When your mother speaks to you, you will be able to hear her voice. The sound produced by her vocal cords travels from her mouth to your ears. How does it travel? It travels in the form of a wave. So sound energy travels in the form of waves. Okay. Now sound helps us a lot in our daily life. We are able to communicate to our friends, our relatives. Okay. So without talking, we can't think of a life where we don't speak to others. Okay. So sound is a form of energy which helps us to hear, and it travels in the form of waves. Okay. Now here are some examples. Musical instruments are played, and the sound produced by the musical instruments travel in the form of waves and reaches our eardrum. Here a dog is barking, and this girl is able to hear the sound because the sound is traveling in the form of waves. Okay. Now the next point is, how is the sound produced? When I am speaking, the vocal cords in my throat vibrate and produce sound. Okay. At home, by mistake, if you are dropping a steel plate from your hand, when it falls on the floor, it makes a lot of noise, the vibration of the steel plate. And in nature, when there is wind, you can see the leaves are moving. Okay, and they vibrate, and sometimes we will be able to hear the sound. Alright, then during heavy lightning and thunder, sometimes the windows vibrate and we will be able to hear a sound. Okay, when your mobile rings, it vibrates. So sound is produced by the vibration of the objects. Many of you must be playing musical instruments, and some of you are in school band team. When you strike the drum or when you play tabla, the membrane, the stretch membrane vibrates and produces sound. When you play guitar or violin, the stretch string vibrates and produces sound. When you play a mouth organ, the air column inside that vibrates and produces sound. Similarly, harmonium, the air column inside that vibrates and produces sound. So whenever an object is vibrated, it produces sound. But sometimes we can see the object vibrating, we may not be able to hear the sound because the amplitude of the sound is very less. We will be studying it in detail later. Okay, so the sound is produced by vibrating objects. So what is sound? It's a form of energy. And how does sound travel? It travels in the form of waves. And how are sound waves made? Sound waves are made by vibrating objects. What sort of things make sound waves? Musical instruments, bees' wings, vocal cords, and loudspeakers. Many examples are there like that. Okay. Now, here is a list of sound produced by different musical instruments and which part of the instrument is producing sound. You can see in veena, sitar, violin and all, stretch string vibrates and produces sound, whereas in tabla, mridangam, drum, stretch membrane produces sound. Then shehnai, flute and mouth organ, air column vibrates and makes sound. You may not be knowing what is shehnai. That is, this musical instrument is known as shehnai, and this is sitar. Okay, now how is sound produced by human beings? I have already told. We have a sound box and there are two vocal cords inside that sound box, and these vocal cords You can see here in the figure there are two vocal cords and there is a small gap between the vocal cords which is known as a windpipe. And when our lungs force air into this windpipe, these two vocal cords vibrates and they produce sound. Okay, this is an external view of the throat and the vocal cords. You know, on the throat there is a hump. When we swallow food, that hump moves up and down, we feel like that. That is a voice box or larynx. Larynx is a biological scientific term for our voice box. So the explanation is here. In humans, the sound is produced by the voice box or the larynx. There is a hard bump on the throat that seems to move when you swallow. This part of the body is known as a voice box. It is at the upper end of the windpipe. As we have seen, it is on the top of the windpipe. Two vocal cords are stretched across the voice box. Okay, and there is a narrow slit between them for the passage of air, which is known as a windpipe. When the lungs force air through the slit, the vocal cords vibrate, producing sound. And there are some muscles attached to the vocal cord. These muscles can make the vocal cord tight or loose. Depends on that. The quality of sound produced will be varying. Alright. Now, when we speak to each other, when I speak, the sound from my mouth reaches your ears in the form of waves. But for traveling, sound needs a medium. If it is empty space, suppose our classrooms are empty, so of course we cannot survive without oxygen, without air. You just imagine there is no air in our room. It is vacuum in free space. I will be speaking, my vocal cords will be vibrating and producing sound, but you will not be able to hear sound because the sound will not be reaching to your ears because there is no medium. So sound needs a medium for its propagation. It can be gas, it can be a liquid, it can be a solid, but it cannot travel through vacuum. Here in all the three media, sound can travel. Sound can travel in air. Sound can travel through water. Sound can travel through a string. Here you can see a boy has kept his ears on the surface of a liquid taken in a container and he is ringing a bell inside the liquid. He is able to hear because sound can travel through water. Here two boys are using a toy telephone. Two thermocol cups are connected using a thread and one boy is speaking, other boy is listening to him. Sound is traveling through this thread. So sound can travel through liquids, gases and solids, but it cannot travel in vacuum or empty space. Here is the explanation for it. The substance through which sound travels is called a medium. This medium may be solid, liquid or gas. When an object vibrates, the air particles around it starts vibrating. When I speak, the air particles around my mouth start vibrating, and when they vibrate, they transfer the energy to the next particle. So the second particle which gets that energy, it starts vibrating and it transfers the energy to the third particle. Then the third particle starts vibrating and the energy will be transferred from one particle to the other particle by vibration. And finally, that energy reaches our ears, our eardrum vibrates and we will be able to hear the sound. Alright. But the particles are not carrying energy and moving from one place to other, how we carry things. Here the particles are not moving, only the energy is transferred from one place to the other through the vibrating particles. Okay, now here I have given you a term called mechanical waves, which is not there in your textbook, but since this wave travels through a medium carrying energy, those waves are called mechanical waves because it needs a medium. In higher classes you will study about electromagnetic waves which can travel in empty space also. Okay, so here are the examples. Here is a vibrating object. When it vibrates, the air particles close to that object start vibrating, transfer energy to the next particle. Like that, the energy is transferred by the vibration of the particle and reaches our ears. An example, here a guitar. Somebody is playing guitar and sound is produced by the vibrating strings. The air particles around it vibrates and it reaches our ears and our eardrum vibrates and we hear the sound. Okay, now here is an activity to show that sound cannot travel through vacuum. Okay, children, here you have a transparent glass jar. Okay, inside that an electric bell is kept. All right, and here is someone standing outside and listening to the ringing sound of the bell. Okay, and you are provided with a vacuum pump also to create vacuum. Now here is a closed container. Inside that the bell is there. Air is present inside that jar. So when the bell is ringing, okay, the child is able to hear the sound outside. Why we have kept or why we have taken a transparent container is we will be able to see the hammer is striking the gong. You have studied the working of an electric bell in class 7. Hope you remember it. Okay. Now, using the vacuum pump, we are slowly removing air from the container. The bell is still ringing. Okay. The child will be able to hear the sound now also because there is a small amount of air inside the jar. Because using vacuum pump, we are slowly removing air. So what happens? The sound will become very feeble. Okay. Now finally, when the full amount of air is removed from the jar, the child will not be able to hear the sound, but still he can see the striker hitting on the gong. He will be able to see the bell ringing, but he will not be able to hear it because there is no air to transfer that energy. If you refill the container using a pump, again you will be able to hear the sound, which means sound needs a medium for its propagation. Without any medium or in empty space or in vacuum, sound cannot travel. Hope it is clear. Now, here is an activity to show that sound can travel through solids. Okay, here there are two thermocol cups and here there is a thread. You have to attach the two cups using the thread and you have to tie a knot on both the ends of the thread so that it doesn't come out from the cup. Okay, and stretch the thread properly. At home you can do it and call your younger brother, give him one cup and ask him to speak through that cup. You can keep the cup close to your ears and you will be able to hear your brother's sound through this thread. So sound can travel through solids. Alright, now here is an activity to show that sound can travel through liquids. Take a container, take water in that and take a bell, take a toy which makes noise on squeezing. Okay. And if it is an electronic one, you can cover it in a plastic bag and keep under water. Okay, so keep your ears close to water. See that water is not entering into your ears and ring the bell or switch on the button of the toy so that it makes noise. You will be able to hear the sound because sound can travel through water. Okay, so we have studied sound can travel through solids, sound can travel through liquid, sound can travel through air. Now, in which medium the speed of sound will be more? Children, in class 5 we have studied the three states of matter and the arrangement of molecules in the three states. In solids, the particles are very closely packed. Okay, and in gases, the molecules are very loosely packed and they are far apart. We have already studied that sound is traveling in the form of waves and the energy is transferred by the vibration of particles from one particle to the other particle. In solids, the particles are very close to each other, so the transfer of energy is very fast. Whereas in gases, the particles are far apart. When one particle vibrates, and it takes a lot of time to transfer energy to the next particle because the next particle is far away. So the speed of sound is maximum in solids and minimum in gases and medium in liquids. The speed of sound is decreasing as it moves from solid to liquid and liquid to gas. Okay, so in vacuum there are no particles, so sound cannot travel through vacuum. In solids the particles are very close to each other, so the energy can be transferred fast and the speed of sound is maximum in solids. And in gases the particles are far away, So it takes time to transfer energy from one particle to the other. So in gases, the speed of sound is minimum. Children, there is a very good example which we cannot practice in daily life, but still, imagine that two of you are standing near a railway track. Okay, one of you are just standing and the other one is just lying down and keep your ears on the railway track. So, who will be able to hear the sound of the train coming from a far away distance? The boy who is standing, he is listening to the sound which is passing through air. The boy who is lying down and who has kept his ears on the railway track, he will be hearing the sound passing through the railway track, through the solid. So that boy will be able to hear the sound before the other boy, because the sound traveling through air, it is slow and it takes little more time to reach his ears, whereas the sound travel with a very high speed in solids. So the boy who has kept his ears on the railway track, he will be able to hear the sound fast. Same way, you can keep your ears on the desk, and when you tap on the desk, you will be able to hear the sound passing through the wood. Alright, so children, I am winding up. So we have studied sound is a form of energy which gives us the sensation of hearing. It travels in the form of waves, and it is produced by the vibration of particle. It cannot travel through vacuum. It can travel through only a medium. So it's known as a mechanical wave. So it can travel through solids, liquids and gases. And in solids, the sound is traveling with a maximum speed. And in gases, the sound is traveling with minimum speed. And in liquids, it is traveling with an average speed. Okay, children, these are some musical instruments. This is veena, this is flute, this is guitar, this is tabla, and this is mridangam, and this is a mouth organ. Okay, children, go through your textbook, go through the activities written in the textbook, and see you in the live class. Thank you.